So many guns, so many magazines, stacks and stacks of magazines everywhere, just in suitcases, all neatly stacked against pillars that were in the room, all stacked up, rifles placed all throughout.
I could smell the gunpowder that had went off in the room, so we were tripping over guns, tripping over long guns inside. There were so many.
I did notice a note on the nightstand near his shooting platform. I could see on it he had written the distance, the elevation he was on, the drop of what his bullet was going to be for the crowd. So he had that written down and figured out, so he would know where to shoot to hit his targets.
Las Vegas police and security guards describing to 60 Minutes the chilling moment they stormed into the killer Stephen Paddock's hotel room in Vegas as the FBI continued to ask for the public's help in figuring out his motive behind the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. This while billionaire hotel mogul Steve Wynn telling Fox the gunman had a plain vanilla profile. He seemed like a normal everyday guy. Listen.
He's been staying in Las Vegas since '06. So we're talking about 11 years with his girlfriend, or at least in recent years, frequent visitor once or twice a month to this hotel and others. The most vanilla profile one could possibly imagine. A modest gambler, at least by our standards, nothing serious, paid promptly, never owed any money anywhere in Las Vegas.
Let's take a check of casino stocks like Wynn Resorts, MGM, Las Vegas Sands, closing in the red today. Let's bring in an expert. Steve Rogers is a former FBI counterterrorism task force member, also former Trump campaign national security advisor. What's your bottom line on this, Steve? Basically, okay, no red flags, no suicide note. That note showing he was obsessively doing calculations about distance and even wind. I mean, he's clearly antisocial, right? I mean, clearly a madman.
Well, a couple of things to note. One is, we know the police did a tremendous job, Liz. We know that. And I believe they prevented the death of many more people because on that note, we know there are mathematical equations, the range, the trajectory. And I believe, and I only say this on speculation, we don't know this as fact, but I'm sure he even had some mathematical figures that would have the trajectory of some of those bullets to that car with the bombs in it. Had that car been next to those fuel tanks, he would have pretty much figured out the range of what he needed to blow those fuel tanks up. And I believe that the quick action, the expert action of the police could have very well prevented that from happening. In addition to that, there's always somebody else that knows something. And the police, I'm sure, are counting on finding that someone.
Meaning you think somebody helped him?
Yeah. Not in the operational stage. The sheriff, who did a tremendous job, God bless that man, he had mentioned last week that there may have been someone else involved, and I believe the sheriff was pointing towards the planning stage. Somebody else had to help this guy plan this. The question is who, what, when, and where. Operationally, he did it on his own.
All right, severe mental illness undiagnosed. Dr. Keith Ablow thinks he's on the spectrum for things like Asperger's. Keith Ablow, Dr. Ablow, citing other mass shootings where similar issues came up. What do you think of that theory?
It's possible. Look, I'm not a doctor. It's possible. I won't count anything
Again, we know
out.
this is all speculation. We get it.
But I won't count anything out at this point. But all those weapons, the meticulous planning, the visiting and reconnaissance of other hotels, I cannot help but believe, based on my experience and based on what we're seeing and what's being said by the police, in the planning stage, there may have been someone else involved or at the very least knows more than what we're being told.
You know, Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan writing an article entitled, "Why Do Americans Own So Many Guns? Because they do not trust elites to protect them. They see the cultural infrastructure giving way. Illegitimacy, abused children, neglect, racial tensions, kids on opioids, staring at screens, and unlike their cultural superiors, they understand the implications." What do you think of the elites looking down their nose at Americans who own guns?
Liz, the Second Amendment is a constitutional right. It's my right to carry or to own a weapon. And we must keep in mind, it isn't the guns. And I know they don't like to hear this. The guns don't kill the people. People kill people. We've seen car attacks. We've seen knife attacks. Guns that are owned by good people who have them legally They're trained people. They know how to use them. And you know what, Liz? You'll find out a lot of people's lives were saved because someone who owned a weapon saved someone's life, that life that was under attack.
That goes unreported by the media. Sorry, those are the facts. Those stories are out there, and we've heard them here. We try to report on them,
Yes,
right?
yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks for coming on. Coming up, the big business of viral